How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to that car vlog channel. If you don't already know, I'm Andy, and today's vehicle is a 2014 Chevy SS. A vehicle that a lot of people, unless you were an absolute car enthusiast at the time, probably didn't even know existed. This is a mean machine. This is a Chevy sedan with a big V8 under the hood, producing a whole bunch of power, some beautiful noises, and it only lasted a few years. We're going to talk about this thing today. This is a very neat vehicle. To onlookers that may not know anything about cars, they probably don't even know what this thing is. But I do, and people who are into cars do. And I can't wait to show this thing to you guys, so let's get started. Before we begin, huge thanks to West Chevrolet of Alcoa, Tennessee for providing this vehicle for today's review. Make sure to check them out at the link in the description below. I want to start with exactly what this thing is. So once again, this is the Chevy SS, produced from 2014 to 2017, 4 model years. This is the US version of the Australian Holden Commodore. Under the hood of this mostly unassuming sedan is a 6.2 liter LS3 V8, producing 415 horsepower, 415 pound-feet of torque, mated in 2014 only to an automatic. Now 15 through 17 you could have an automatic or manual, both 6-speed, but this is a 14, so it is automatic. Now let's start first by talking about this right here, the name SS, because that's kind of an interesting choice for Chevy. SS throughout the last several decades has always been the name for their performance variant of their cars. You had the Chevelle SS, Nova SS, Camaro SS. You know, in more modern times you had the Blazer SS, Silverado SS. SS was always a performance variant of normal models, but now you just have the SS. Kind of an interesting choice, and I guess when you're searching for a name to give to the US version of your Australian car and you want something cool, I guess this is a pretty easy name to come up with. Kind of interesting though that they went with that. Now I'm going to start on the outside with the overall styling of the car, as I usually do, and as you can tell, unless you really know what's going on here, you may not actually be entirely sure what this thing is or that it's actually something special. Now to the untrained eye, some may say, is that a Caprice PPV? But no, that's not what this is. Coming down the side, it looks rather unassuming. You do have this nice accented silver with your signal in it. One good way to recognize that this is something special is behind these 19-inch wheels are Brembo brakes. The wheels themselves are mostly unassuming. They're nice wheels, but a lot of cars have wheels of this type of style. But Brembo brakes on a Chevy sedan, quite interesting. Coming a little bit closer, one touch I really do like is on these handles. First of all, they have this chrome piece on them, which makes them look really nice, but the lock button for when the key is in your pocket is present on the front and the back door. That's something I haven't seen on very many vehicles, and I really like that. So you don't have to unlock at the front, then open the back door. If you just need to open the back door, you've got a button for the back door. Very nice. Coming around the rear, once again, it's a good looking rear end, but nothing to tell you, at least style wise, that this is something crazy. Unless, of course, you know. Of course, you got the SS badge here. That's going to kind of be a giveaway. And then you got these quad tip exhausts on the back here. That makes some nice noises. We'll hear those in a minute. That's definitely a heck of a giveaway right there. And you do have a very, very mild diffuser. Not much of anything, but it's there. Another way to kind of tell this thing is a little special. Coming around the passenger side, same as the driver, not much to see here. It's just a good looking car. And to the untrained eye, that's all it is. It's a good looking car. Now before we get in, here's the key. This is just pretty much a typical Chevy key. Nothing really special about it. It doesn't even say SS on it. It just has a Chevy badge. Your normal array of buttons and the switchblade for the hard key if you ever needed it. Anyway, let's get into the car now. And it actually is a pretty good looking interior too, kind of sporty. So here we got on the door panel, you know, you got some piano black here, you got some nice soft touch stuff here with some chrome accents, a little bit of possibly Alcantara suede on the door panel with some red accented stitching. You know, that's going to give you a nice sporty look. You do have a Bose stereo system in here. Sounds very, very good. And this being YouTube, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. Checking out these seats, starting from the bottom up, they are fully power adjustable, so no manual stuff here. You get a little bit of luxury in here. They are somewhat nicely bolstered. Sitting in them, I can definitely feel the bolster. So they are somewhat sporty seats in a somewhat sporty car. Loving that it still has the red accented stitching that continues into the seats and even up the seat center, bringing you up to the embroidered SS logo in the seat. Very good looking with some silver accents up above that. Red accent stitching on the headrest. Good looking sporty seats in this car. As we begin to make our way across the dash, some standard stuff. You got your headlight controls, your gauge brightness, that kind of thing. Controls for your heads-up display. Here's to adjust the height of that, and this button here, button/knob to adjust the brightness on the knob, and the button to change between what you see in the heads-up display. We'll get to that in a minute. Your steering wheel is mostly a typical Chevy steering wheel. I mean, it's a good looking wheel. It's nice and thick, feels good in the hands. And you do have this flat bottom here because sports car. Nothing special here. You've got your normal array of controls for your cruise control and your lane keep and your collision warning and stuff like that. Over here's your radio controls and whatnot. You also see on the back of this steering wheel, there are paddle shifters. Because this is the automatic car, so it has up and down paddle shifters. Not sure how good those will be. We'll find out in a little bit, because this is just a 6-speed torque converter automatic. So they may not be the best paddle response in the world, but they are there in case you want to get a little bit more sporty with it. As we make our way to the center stack, you do have heated and cooled seats on the driver's side and the passenger side. Very nice there. You have a nice, fairly decent sized infotainment screen, has the Chevy MyLink in it. If we look on that, you got a few different home pages here. Use your standard array of inputs. No Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. It's a little early for that, I reckon. Not a whole heck of a lot to see here. You got navigation, you got all your configurations, Bluetooth connectivity, all that stuff. Down below that, you got some nice hard controls for the radio that controls some of the infotainment as well, so it's not all touchscreen, which is kind of nice, because the way this is set in here, if you're pushing buttons down at the bottom, you could accidentally push actual buttons down here. But very, easy to use controls right here in front of you. You see it all, and it's a Bose system, so it sounds good too. Below our infotainment stereo system, dual zone climate control. Very nice to see here, all hard buttons, nothing on screen that you have to worry about. I do like seeing that. Below that, you get a nice little storage area. It's got kind of a grippy bottom in it. No USB connectivity here, just a 12-volt round. It was 2014, so that kind of stuff was still kind of coming into the car scene. So I'm not too disappointed to not see USBs in here for 2014. Still would be nice to have. Behind that, here's our automatic gear selector. Again, this is a 6-speed automatic transmission. For 2014, it was your only option. For 15 through 17, you could either get the 6-speed auto or the 6-speed manual, which of course the manual is the one to have, but the auto is the one I've got access to. If we drop this over here and push it this way, you get a sport mode with sport shifting. You can either use the gear selector or the paddles to shift. We'll definitely be trying that out. Behind that, here's your electronic parking brake, unfortunately, and here's a few different buttons for your parking sensors, traction control off and whatnot. Little storage compartment here, which in later years, and especially with the manual, would actually feature a drive mode selector. This does not have that. It doesn't have multiple drive modes. It just simply has the sport mode. However, it does have a hidden drive mode. If you hit the traction control button twice, 1, 2, then you can see in the center screen of the gauge cluster, competitive mode. So we may have to see what that does later. That could be fun. Behind that, dual cup holders. Behind that, your center console lid. It's got the leather feel stuff with the red accented stitching because, of course. Open that up and it looks like you got another 12-volt round right here. USB input as well as an aux input. And this neat little storage area to put your key, which supposedly is, if you want to just keep your key there, it's also useful for reprogramming new keys. Look at these little channels right here. These are kind of cool. So you can actually plug a device into one of these ports and then run your cord through here and close the lid down. It's a nice little place for your cord to run. Cord management, I like that. And now we make our way back up to the dash to continue to the passenger side. So here on the passenger side, more of this Alcantara suede looking stuff, very nice. Kind of a leather little header up there with your red stitching again, and an embroidered red SS logo. Not many cars with the logo embroidered on the passenger side of the dash. You get plenty of cars with the logo on the passenger side of the dash, not very many with it embroidered. That's really cool. Down here, your glove compartment, it is not lockable, and it is kind of odd. It's not exactly tall. It's somewhat deep in there, but it's not all that big. It doesn't hold all that much. You're going to fill it up pretty quickly. Up to the ceiling, you got just a standard rear view mirror with your OnStar and whatnot. 2014, it's not yet time for them to have the digital rear view mirror camera. Too bad. Be pretty cool, but you expect that for the year. Above that, you get your typical map lights here. If you push a button, those will come on. Here's your home link controls, sunroof. Push that button, you get a power sunroof. And if we hold it, it'll close back. So That's nice, it does have a sunroof in it. All right, I'm going to attempt to show off the heads-up display now. So here in this configuration, I do like this. It's got that nice tachometer. Give it a rev here, you can see that thing run up. Got your tach with your park or your gear in the little square there. It's got your miles per hour. If we hit the page button, now it's going to give you your speed, your gear, and it's going to give you your lateral G's, which is interesting. Here we go, your big miles per hour, your outside temperature, and your compass. Or you can just have your speed displayed, and we'll go right back to the tachometer. Yeah, I just wanted to do that. Other than that though, it's a really decent heads-up display. It's very bright. Of course, you can adjust the brightness if you don't want it, you know, that bright, but I kind of like being able to see it. It's repositionable, so if you need it higher or lower, you can do that. But it's very easy to see, very easy to read. It's right in front of you. No problem at all. I really do like the heads-up display in this car. Now let's go ahead and talk about the gauge cluster down here. It is a fairly typical gauge cluster, mostly analog. So here's a nice tach outlined in red. You got your temperature down there. On this side, your speedo, once again outlined in red with 180 mile an hour max on it. Gas gauge below that. Very nice, very sporty looking. Here in the center is this little screen here. This is where you're going to get a lot of your information. I think the most interesting part of this screen is the way it's controlled though. This is your turn signal stock. So, you know, turn your signals on, whatever. But here are all the controls for your center screen. So as you can see, I'm going to start hitting buttons, and it's going to start taking me through all kinds of different stuff, and I can use this to twist up and down. Here's our battery voltage, speed warning. Here's our little unit, so you want to set it to US or metric. Tire pressure monitoring system, that's really nice to see there. And it almost looks like it's the shape of a Chevy SS, but I can't really be sure on that. Oil life, back to battery voltage. If we hit the, there we go. Now we have a digital speedometer, kind of cool there. Here's your trip meter, fuel range, fuel economy, average vehicle speed. Here's your nav. Hit the menu again, and we're back to vehicle information. Not a whole heck of a lot to see here, but that is the center screen, and that's how it's adjusted. Now as we enter the back seat, the whole theme from the front continues into the back. So you got the piano blacker on the window switch, you got the Alcantara suede up here. Over here, if you look, you got your accented red stitching on the seats, and even the back seat, on at least the outer parts, is somewhat bolstered. It's not crazy. It's obviously not a sports car in the back as well, but it's still nice. Sitting in the back of this car, I have absolutely no issue with leg room. Actually, I mean, this is pretty nice. No issue with headroom. There's actually room in this car as well. As far as rear seat amenities go, you're not getting very many. You do have some climate vents back here, and you can control the amount of airflow you get out of them, or none. Otherwise, the temperature and fan speed is all controlled up front. There's nothing down here, no charging ports, no 12 volt, nothing like that. Now here in the seat back, if we pull this down here, you get an armrest, but there's no cup holders in it. Now we're thinking, okay, this is a 2014 American vehicle. The rear seat has to have cup holders as a requirement. So where in the world are they? Interesting, if we push this button on top of the center and pull this down, this is both a trunk pass-through and a table slash armrest and cup holders. So yes, the only way to have cup holders in the rear of this car is to have the trunk pass-through open as well. That's that's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. But as it turns out, the cup holders in the trunk pass-through are not the only ones that you have. If you push here on the front of the middle seat in the rear, you actually do have a couple of cup holders pop out. So you actually, if you put down the pass-through, can have 4 cups in the back of this car. Otherwise, nothing of note in the rear seat. Obviously, the front seat is where you want to be in this car. Now to get into the trunk, you can either push this button here on the driver's door panel, or you can tap this button here on the key fob and open that trunk up. And it opens up to a pretty sizable trunk, actually. It's not small at all. You can actually get a good amount of stuff in here. I do like whoever had this before put a WeatherTech in the back of it. That looks really good. It's going to really protect this thing for a while. Now, if we open this panel up on the driver's side of the trunk, you get your battery. They actually mounted the battery in the back of this thing. Probably for weight distribution or something, but if you're looking for the battery in your Chevy SS, that's where it is. Otherwise, nothing really of note in the trunk. Once again, this car is not about a nice trunk. This car is about being up front and driving the hell out of it. And now we go into the hood to talk about what really makes this car special. So once again, this is your 6.2 liter LS3 V8, 415 horsepower, 450 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in right around 4.5 seconds. rear wheel drive only. None of these were all wheel drive. Once again, made it to either a 6-speed automatic or 6-speed manual, although it was automatic only for the 14 model year. Gas mileage for this car, I didn't even look it up because it's not going to be great. Obviously, it's a big V8 car and nobody's going to drive it soft. So don't buy this thing for gas mileage, buy it for fun. That's what you buy this for. Interestingly, this car was classified as a gas guzzler by the government when it was made. And not just because it's a big honking V8, but because of the engine that it has. So this has the LS3 instead of the LT1, which means there was no variable cam timing, no direct injection, and no cylinder deactivation. None of the stuff that they're putting into place to try to make the V8s a little bit more efficient. So because of that, it was hit with a $1,300 gas guzzler tax, added on top of the $45,000 base price for this car back in 2014. These cars started about 45 grand. You can run them up to right around 50 in that neighborhood if you added options. Although the options were not all that many, so you usually kept the prices between 45 and 50 grand. Interesting, these things are still really holding their value. I think this one is priced at this dealership at right around somewhere between 43 and 44,000. Of course, it only has like 12,000 miles or something like that on it, so it's a pretty low mileage car. And it's really cool. Now, the crazy thing about these is there weren't all that many of them made, right around 3,000 a year. And unless you really knew what was going on in the car world, you may not have even known these were a thing. I remember back during the period that these were being made, I was stocking vending machines at a Chevy dealership in Knoxville. I had never heard of the SS until I walked in that showroom and saw, I think it was an orange manual. It was gorgeous. And I was like, what in the world is that? I had to go look at it, and that's when I learned what the Chevy SS was. From my understanding and from what I've heard from other reviewers, there was no marketing. Chevy didn't market this thing. They didn't advertise it very much at all. So you had to know. I'm kind of glad I know. Now, I don't know if it's worth noting, I don't think any of them actually came with the Chevy Corvette valve covers on them, or valve cover covers. I looked at a lot of pictures online and none of them had these, so maybe somebody put these on their aftermarket, although it definitely gives it a really cool look to have that big red Corvette LT3 or LS3, whatever, script on top of your engine in this car. Now, as you can probably imagine, a 6.2 liter LS3 makes some beautiful noises out of a quad tip exhaust. Let's go hear those noises, shall we? All right, it is time to drive the Chevy SS. I've wanted to do this for, hell, at least 5 years now. I know the last model year was 2017. I'd say probably around that time was when I saw it in the dealership. I've wanted to drive one of these ever since. Like I said, I wish it was the manual. I'm sure that'd be a lot more fun, but the automatic will do just fine. Couldn't get a faster 0 to 60 in an auto anyway. But just taking off, even under light acceleration, you can feel this baby's got some power. Oh, it's so nice. Before we really get into the power though, let's talk about what it's like in general driving the car. Visibility over the hood is great. That head-up display is wonderful. I mean, it really is a great display. It's very clear. I can see everything and I can see whatever I want to see. I got all these different options I can choose from. But I do like that I do like the round tack on it. I can see it sweep as I accelerate and decelerate. Out the rear, not too bad. There's a bit of a spoiler. You can see that through the rear window. Otherwise, it's perfectly fine. Out the glass is like driving a sedan, pretty much is what it is. And I've driven some mid-size Chevy sedans before, and this isn't very much different. Now, these things do have Chevy's magnetic ride control suspension on them, so if you do have the different drive modes, you can go, you know, in between comfort mode and sport mode and stuff like that, and it'll stiffen the suspension for sport. It'll get more comfortable for comfort and stuff. Let's see though how it does handling wise. That's my stuff in the passenger seat over here. It couldn't hold on, but I did. That's actually pretty good. That was that 90-degree turn, same one we took in the Kia Stinger GT2 not long ago. And it's a good turn. This thing handled it nicely. It's a good handling car. You know, just sitting here in the car, just looking around, if you don't look over and see the SS badge on the dash, if you're not staring at the red highlighted sports gauges, it doesn't feel like you're sitting in very much. It feels like you're just sitting in a Chevy sedan. Now the seats are somewhat bolstered, so you do feel that. They're not heavily bolstered. I mean, even my big butt feels good in these things, but it doesn't feel like you're in anything really all that special. But you are. I do like also in the heads-up display, you're not going to see it on camera because I'm just discovering it while driving, but we've got this button here for the forward collision warning, and if I hit this button, it displays in the bottom of the heads-up what my gap is that I've got set, whether I want a far gap or a close gap before it warns me that I'm about to hit it, and I can see all that in the heads-up display. It even has these neat little pictures of cars, which kind of cool for a heads-up display to have like actual images of cars in it. All right, they claim a 0 to 60 of 4.5. I don't have any way with me to test to see for sure if that's true or not, but we're just going to go for it. Although I believe it. I really, really believe it. That engine sings under a load. Oh man, it sounds good revving, but under load, that thing sounds amazing. Of course, it better. It's a 6.2 LS3. That engine is awesome. That thing just roars, man. And yeah, this thing is quick. This thing is fast. Definitely another one of those, if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't know until you're getting gapped by this thing. This is great. All right, so we're gonna pop it over sport mode. We're gonna turn track off 1, 2, puts it in competitive mode, hit the paddle, puts it in manual mode, and let's go. Okay, so paddle response isn't great. Once again, it's a torque converter transmission. It's not a double clutch. I didn't feel a lot of difference in acceleration. I didn't go as hard on it though. I really wanted to test the shifting capabilities, and I got the results I was looking for. It's not going to be quick shifts. It's not built for quick manual shifts because it's not a DCT. Still, this is a fun car. It's another one of those cars where if you want to carry the wife and kids in a sedan, but you want to go fast, once again, tell the wife, you know, just like with the Stinger, tell the wife, hey, it's got a nice sized trunk, it can carry 4 of us, and it's fast as hell. All right, y'all, so that's going to do it for the 2014 Chevy SS. What a car. I mean, this thing is crazy. And to think that a lot of people didn't even know it existed. In fact, like I said, as a car nut, even I didn't until I walked into the dealership and saw it. This thing is incredible. The American version of an Australian GM vehicle. It's I don't know what else to call it, but amazing. A mostly understated Chevy sedan with a big LS3 V8 engine underneath it. 4.5 to 60, man, this thing is fast, this thing is fun. Anyways, thanks y'all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video of this car as much as I enjoyed making it. It was definitely a blast making this video, I'm not gonna lie. If you like what you see here, you wanna see more, go back to the channel when you're done here, watch the rest of the videos. We've got a lot of other cool reviews on there. I just did a Kia Stinger GT2, recently did a 22 C8 Corvette convertible. So I'm getting some pretty cool things up on the channel. Go check it out. If you like what you see, consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when video goes up. Also follow on Facebook and Instagram at that car vlog channel. Another great way to get notified. And if you have any cars you'd be willing to let me review and drive on the channel, let me know at my email in the description below. There will also be a link down there to a list of cars that I've thought of that I'd be interested in reviewing and driving. If you have anything that is or isn't on that list, hit me up at the email, try to work something out. Once again, huge thanks to West Chevrolet of Alcoa, Tennessee for allowing me to use this vehicle for this review today. Check them out at the link in the description below. Anyways, thanks y'all so much for watching. You have a good one.